Live. Welcome to Gutter Stars, Episode 1, Second Edition. I've downgraded the first episode to 0.5. It's still worth watching, but it was shorter than we'd planned and had obviously a bunch of technical problems. You can see we're running on a slimmed down setup, let's put it that way. We've got we're using Owlbear Rodeo for our Roll20 equivalent for dice and maps, and we're using Discord sound. So yeah, tell us if there's any issues, obviously, in the chat. Alex, Alex is our spy, checking that everything works on YouTube. Everything working on YouTube,
That
Alex?
looks good to me.
Yep, great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Gutter Stars is an AD&D second edition game. It is set in the world of Spelljammer, the fantasy, space and adventure and space opera and science fiction crossover. But particularly we're on the Rock of Bral, which is an asteroid city with lots of grass, as you can see, because in Spelljammer, this not being science but sort of space fantasy, everything carries its own air envelope with it, and the Rock of Bral has an air envelope. And our heroes are low-level peons operating there. They wish they could be in the stars. They are instead in the gutter. And a big opportunity, though, has come upon them, which is that lots of other people are ill. Malingerous cholera is a foul disease that's not particularly lethal, but is very unpleasant and debilitating, and means that more jobs are coming the way of the useless peons than usually come their way. What I'll do now is I'll ask, when last we left our heroes, does someone want to sum up what happened in our last session?
Yeah, I'll do that. So we had the four of us who were there last time. We knew of a few jobs that were available. We kind of discussed them amongst ourselves. Some of them we found a bit more attractive than others. There was one that was just some general longshore work, working over at the docks, 10 gold pieces a week, or pier guards available, night shifts, five gold pieces a day for 2 days. And both of those sounded far too much like real jobs for our interest.
When you heard there's a labour shortage, you didn't mean that, did you? That wasn't what you wanted.
Yeah, no. We don't want to actually do labour. We just want to get paid. So the other two jobs we heard of sounded much more interesting. Someone willing to pay 10 gold pieces to deliver a letter, a publisher delivering a letter to the kind of elven section of town. And there was some a kind of bigger delivery job from an armourer to the Agamor mercenary, Giff mercenary company. That would pay 5 gold pieces for each of us. So both fairly simple jobs, fairly well paying, both sounded worth it. We set off to do the letter first. That sounded like it wouldn't take too long. Better to do first. Started walking in that direction. We headed towards the publisher. Lived near the bazaar. We met him. We met his kind of shop assistant, his boy first, who kind of gave us a bit of side eye. Didn't quite think much of us as kind of not quite unwashed mercenaries, but not too far off. We managed to talk with the publisher, this Fandar, and he gave us this letter and 10 gold pieces, which is an abnormally high amount of money to pay for a simpler job as delivering a letter. So we did ask a bit about that, especially when he offered to pay us up front. And whilst his explanation did satisfy us, it was just due to the labour shortage, and he wants to make sure all his business is in order. It still seemed something was a little off. So yeah, we started heading over to the just on the edge of this forested region inside the city. We were kind of delayed once or twice on the way. First by this big procession of carts hauled by ogres out of the temple district to the north, kind of blocking the entire street as we started to pass. So naturally, we did what any sensible person was, and quickly tried running around to find another street pass before it had blocked that street as well, kind of running to beat the train. And just as we were about to get past it, we head down an alleyway, and we find a way once again blocked. This time by two groups of dwarves having something of an argument in the middle of the street. Our glorious leader, the Major, tried to just keep going through them, and they took exception to that somewhat. But the names escape me now. Flynn Manley, the one and only. He stepped forward with a twinkle in his eye and some other poetic something or other, and charmed the dwarves into stepping back. I'm sure they resumed their arguments once they were gone, but they didn't care too much to stop us.
You can see Flynn Manley on our screen now, above the map.
A real gentleman's gentleman,
Yeah.
or something to that effect. House Nabrodic, I think one of the dwarf houses was.
That's right.
Said something about they'd be help or something about like speak good. Oh, Flynn Manley, yes, I know you. Speak good. Don't say bad things about House Nabrodic. And so on and so forth. So after that, we did manage to get past the these kind of ogre hauled carts and made it to this writer's house, this Cavan Luskio, something of a kind of space ranger. He writes these travelogues of his adventures, basically. He was skittish, somewhat paranoid.
Yeah, how would other people describe Cavan Luskio who were there?
Yeah, let's go with that. Quite mad.
That was my main takeaway, that he seemed like he'd been exploring space for the better part of 30 years and claimed to have seen a door within a gate or a gate within a door. The space between places, and he just seemed like a little bit mad.
He maybe should have had someone to talk to with, for that 30 years he was in space.
Yeah.
Also paranoid. He seemed to be sure he was in danger of some kind.
Yes, there was that, and I think I can remember it was all the stars were watching him or laughing at him or talking to him. He really seemed unhinged.
Yeah.
And he gave me the manuscript to his latest work, which I haven't had time to study yet because I sort of pretended to be somewhat sympathetic.
And so you managed to deliver the letter, which was a rejection letter. It turned out you got this manuscript, and then you went off to your next job, didn't you? Does someone want to pick up the story there? You thought you'd fit in a couple of jobs in one day because they're only delivery jobs.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't too much more that happened after that. We were just heading over to this armourers to pick the mercenaries. We were stopped in the streets by I don't remember exactly how they looked, but I guess this distinctive priest of Ptah, I think.
Yeah. Imagine in our heads like an ancient Egyptian priest approached you in the street.
Yeah. Specifically approached Flynn. And offered him a letter, appropriately sealed and whatnot, which he read and said what had been an invitation to the Temple of Ptah for him and any other mercenary fighting types he knew, with an offer of payment just for attending this meeting and a job for pay. 5 gold pieces each just for turning up, and 50 for completing this job. And
so that's what we assumed it was shady and all went home.
Yeah, that was where we left our
any
session.
Details.
Yeah.
About like I don't even think we know who we're supposed to be meeting. It's just a lady.
Yeah, and a cultured lady requiring discretion, I think was the way it was put, wasn't it? Okay, well, what we'll do now is let's just give, for the 4 characters who were here last time, do you want to give a sentence each, and then we'll introduce your 2 friends who have just finished their job. They also were picking up a job for the company, which was apparently that there'd been, there's a big mess needing help, and it turned out the big mess was a company of Giff having had the malingerer's cholera. So they're probably in a less chirpy mood than you are. But yeah, we'll go through Sparks. Give us a sentence on who you are.
Hi, my name's Phil, and I'll be playing Sparks tonight. He is an Autognome. Very quickly, he was built for a war that never took place and managed to escape to the Rock of Bral.
Yep. And Flynn, what about you?
Flynn is a noble's 3rd son, kind of on the outs with his family because he's too wild. I wasn't sure if he was actually going to be sort of charming, but it turned out with good dice rolls he actually was last session, so let's hope that he continues that.
Reaction rolls working for you, yeah?
Yeah.
And he has, we established he has a father who is known by repute as, not that it's his actual name, but known as the Unnamed Manly, because no one can take his name in vain. Gil, what about you?
I'm Alex, and I'm playing Gil Teamorin. This kind of this militant wizard, an invoker, invokes battle magic basically, and also a survivor of the invasion of Spyral, and a relatively nearby planet
in the same crystal sphere.
Recently, recently lost to the Skrull in the recent Inhuman War.
Yeah, we're in the midst of we're in a ceasefire in the Second Unhuman War, while the Imperial Elven Navy and their allies keep a, not really a peace, not even really a ceasefire, but a nominal holding of arms against these Skrull invaders who have come from the edges of space to get back what is their own. And finally, of the returning characters, Andrew.
Oh, yes, I'm Andrew, and I'll be playing Major Alphonse Remmington-Smythe III, much more commonly just known as the Major. He is essentially a retired sort of Marine. He acted as a quartermaster in a mercenary company for several years before retiring to the Rock of Bral, and he's essentially just sort of doing these small mercenary jobs around just to keep active in his retirement.
Yeah.
He's pretty good at these mercenary jobs due to the fact that he is a Giff, which is a kind of 9-foot-tall hippo man. And therefore, even as a retired senior citizen, is still pretty handy in a fight.
Yeah. On a single, you have the strongest single attack of anyone in the party, if we're just talking combat-wise, and that is your headbutt. So we'll have a couple of sentences. We'll next go to Stype, Stack Sheaf. Tom, do you want to tell us about your character?
Yes, I am Tom. I've written actually here Stype Sheafstack, but I will double check what my character sheet says. But in any case, he'll go by Stype, and he is a cleric, the communities of farmers on the rock, which helps supply it with food.
Yeah, the underside of the rock, which we haven't got up here, is apart from a naval base, is also a vast farmland. And Demeter herself, I suppose, may not actually have a local presence in this sphere, in this crystal sphere, but you're because gods have different power in different spheres. But you're affiliated with the Pantheonist temple, aren't you? The kind of general, everyone's local gods.
Temple on the rock.
So a bit of a supply and demand thing that if your god isn't locally present, another god fills in to give you the same powers. Like a locum, they're locum GPs basically for each other.
Yeah.
And finally we have Fool. You'll have to tell us how to pronounce it, Jamie.
So I'm Jamie, and I'll be playing Phsphl.
Yeah, it's not that hard once you hear it.
Phsphl is a lizard man. So he stands perhaps 6.5 feet tall, covered in shiny scales from a emerald green through to turquoise, and then kind of iridescent purpley highlights. And when we first meet him, he is completely naked except for a kind of loincloth thing around his midsection, and a sort of bandolier type thing to which several knives hang. And he sort of has a tendency to stare into space with his unblinking ancient reptilian eyes, and stand with his mouth slightly agape, his sharp teeth showing. He about himself, but he is a bounty hunter, struggling to find a decent job on the rock. And is picking up other bits and bobs in the meantime.
Yeah, has become attached to this other group of pretty low level mercenary weaklings. Great. So yeah, you reconvene, having been on your morning mission of shoveling muck. You reconvene with the rest of your allies. This is as in Stype and Phsphl do outside Sakar's Exotic Males, which is down. Do you see where the party icon is? Down here. It's in Drakon Town. I'll see if I can get a pointer up on it.
Yeah. Sakar's Exotic Males.
Yes, Sakar's Exotic Males, which is if you're not a human, it's a place that you can get armour made for you. Owned by a famous Lizardman warrior called Sakar, Saakharr. And because the job you'd accepted was moving plate, wasn't it? Like Giff plate up to Agamor's platoon at the other end of the low town.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have any of human and of unusual dimensions, either Giff and the Lizardman, have either of you come across Sakar before?
He at least looked in at what kind of prices he's selling things for and decided that it's a little bit out of my range, to put it mildly.
Yeah. 2 to 5 times more expensive than similar armour. So, 2 to 5 times more expensive than similar armour. And given that both Giff and Lizardmen get base natural AC, you don't actually. Yeah. You need to get the good stuff. You need to be getting like ring mail, plate mail. So very expensive. But Drakons are this kind of herd creature of dragon centaurs. Very, very social, very, very kind of socially awkward by the standards of the other so-called civilized ancestries, because they are just pretty kind of blunt and direct about what's going on. They're on the edge of their territory, but it's not really territory, it's just an area where lots of them have settled. There is this armourer, and you are here to collect some sets of plate for Agamor's platoon. So we'll start there. We'll pick up from there. I guess you see Stype and the Lizardman coming down the road towards you.
I guess Gil probably might be the first notice and waves them over. Stype, lizard friend.
Phsphl.
Bless you.
Yeah.
glad to see you make it. How are the Giff?
Our morning's work has been arduous.
Arduous, yes.
Better you than I.
I would have thought a priest of Demeter would appreciate,
The organic fertilizer.
No stranger to honest work, but, well, I've had cleaner hands working in the fields, I'll say that much.
Well, the day's still young yet, dear boy. come on, let's see if we can't find some real work to get our hands stuck in. Breathing. What?
Yeah. So, Sakar's it's got a main door, front door for customers, and it has a trade entrance as well. Kind of, as it has like you'd almost think of it as like a stable entrance, but just because hand carts come out of it.
Probably worth heading around the
I'm going
side.
to use the... Oh, sorry.
Probably worth us heading around the side. I don't know if they've got it all loaded in carts or just boxes, but
I was just going to say I was going to go in the front door for the novelty of a door that is actually my size.
Oh,
Yeah.
I imagine it's like a big and tall armourers. They're probably actually equipped for me to fit in the front door for a change.
Well, and Drakons are pretty big too. So, like most of the buildings around here have been built for larger ancestries. So yeah, I kind of imagine this is something where Gil starts to head off kind of sensibly to the side door, whilst the Mage has already opened the front door.
Probably.
Entering. I don't know where everyone else is going.
Sparks will be following the Major as always.
Yeah, Sparks. Though he's not, his programming doesn't. He's not kind of forced to do stuff. He does have what we, free will. He has predilections, doesn't he? He has like basic programming.
Yes, basic programming, effectively children and at all costs. But there is a little bit of wiggle room in it.
Yeah. And you've picked the Major as your commander, basically, haven't you? So you follow him, and probably just because gnomes probably respect, kind of, you instinctively think the biggest gnome might be the bossiest. Who knows? So the biggest creature.
Yeah, I mean that's why Space Hamster is Lieutenant Colonel. It is a title that is superior to the Major because Nibbles is bigger than the Major.
Yeah.
For context, on our prologue adventure, while both the Major and Gil were unconscious, Sparks managed to acquire a pet giant space hamster, which is a hamster that's around the size of like a cow or a bear.
Yeah, like a kind of...
That is now living in our small apartment with us.
Yeah, or
we're
like a
desperately trying to find money
small
to keep him
elephant or
feed.
something even. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Not as tall as an elephant, but kind of in terms of, we're talking about like length and bulk, but has taken over one of your small rooms at the Red House boarding house up by the small bazaar. So yeah,
Rodents are an excellent source of nutrition.
Certainly try to.
I'll probably just stick with the scones. What?
So Major, as you leave Phsphl and Sparks kind of having a bit of a culture clash, robot to reptile. You enter the front door, and it's very gleaming. Like there's a lot of gleaming armor here, hanging over mannequins, but they're not our human Khan. There's a mannequin of a Giff, and these mannequins are kind of really have quite good paint jobs on them to look like fierce warriors. The Giff has a pucker hat on and things like that. You enter and you can hear. There's no one in the forecourt, as it were, where this armor is. You can hear hammering in a room beyond. Meanwhile, Gil, I guess you are just at the trade entrance knocking.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Major, what are you doing next?
He's probably just spending a few minutes just examining the armor and stuff, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, he does actually know a decent amount about, well, a bit at least, about sort of armoring and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so he's just like...
Do you have the non-weapon proficiency
Rhyming
armourer? I feel like you might have armourer as a non-weapon.
I do have armorer, yes. It's one of my non-weapon proficiencies, yes.
Gil, you knock on the door, and after a time, the door opens, and a small lizard folk by your... They're called... the spacefaring lizardmen are often called scalies. It's not necessarily considered an insulting name, I don't think. Probably just because lizardmen don't really process the discussion at that level. They're like, okay, yes, we do have scales. And a fairly small specimen looks out and croaks in common, saying, what do you need?
Here for the
you can hear
delivery
ringing.
job.
You can hear ringing in the background, Gil, as well. The small lizardman will kind of nod. This one is actually a bit different from Phsphl. This one has like a slightly smoother scale tone or skin tone or whatever, and has sticky fingers, like looks more like a gecko or something. Whereas you'd say, Phsphl looks like a crocodilian of some kind.
Yeah.
It will nod in almost like in a delayed reaction, as if processing the reaction for the humans is to nod, and then slam the door in your face. Like, so there's dust shaking from the frame of this. It's actually a little small door inside big double barn doors, so it kind of shakes just onto your chest, like dust. And you hear him moving off in the back, like beyond the door. Is anyone else doing anything?
Stype will have gone round to the service entrance as well.
Yeah, cool.
Won't be the first time he's made deliveries into various shops.
Yeah. And yeah, anyone else doing anything? Yeah, Sparks was with the Major. Sparks, you are inside, I guess. There is no Autognome armour. You're not sure you've ever heard of such a thing.
I am armour. Why would I need it?
Yeah. Yeah, Sparks probably looks at this other armour and just thinks, the soft ones need extra help. Yeah.
Period design.
Do we get the sense, incidentally, this gecko is going to open
Left.
after waiting maybe a minute? We wait a minute. Does anything happen?
You begin to hear clanking inside. Major, you doing anything in the shop?
Can I actually see anyone, like a proprietor or anyone?
There is a corridor, and then you can see some stone steps down, kind of coming off this corridor. There's also a couple of wooden doors. The clanging seems to come from the stone steps.
Is there any sign saying keep out or staff only?
No. I feel that probably Lizardmen don't feel the need to provide warnings. So whether or not you're banned, you would not know.
Right. Well, in that case, there's nothing to do but assume that it's okay.
Yeah.
Yep, I will head on downstairs and just looking for the manager.
You head down, and you quickly see, you kind of hear ringing. Heat begins to well up, and your interthing obviously cut down into the rock. You know, like you're on a ground level thing, but then you've gone down into a cellar, and it is cut into rock. And there's some sort of foamy material above you on the ceiling here, which you're probably not familiar with. Fibrous foamy material. You see another crocodile hammering at an anvil. What looks like a protrusions from it and holes in it. He is
The nice piece of... Oh, sorry.
What?
It's a nice piece... I forgot. What was it again? The Araman?
Agamor, the Agamor platoon. Yeah.
I don't suppose you could tell me where the delivery for the Agamor platoon is, could you?
The Agamor platoon, obviously as a fellow Giff mercenary company, not the one you were in, but yeah. He will turn round and with hammer kind of in hand, he'll swing round with the hammer up. It's quite a large. It is kind of a normal hammer in the sense it's a one-handed thing, but it's pretty large. He is striking pretty hard, and you can see he's a pretty built kind of figure, lizard folk, rippling, bulky muscles on the upper body, and he'll turn round and say, "Trade entrance for such things," and then pause, but say, "Delivery should be prepared."
Which way is the trade entrance from here?
He'll point back up the stairs. You can see beyond him as he moves. You can see there are stairs down as well from here, further into the rock.
As vaguely curious as I am, it's probably not okay for me to keep just sort of poking around this man's shop. So, yeah, I will head round to the trade entrance to rendezvous with the others.
Great. Yeah.
Given that cutting straight through to the entrance doesn't seem to be an option.
Yeah, great. No, as the Major and Sparks stomp back out, the big doors are pushed open, and you see behind them it's rock, and then it falls away like almost with a ramp down toward, presumably further into the rock. There is a large hand cart, or at least it is a cart, and it does not have any animals attached, which has 5 large heavy boxes. You can see that the construction of the cart is very solid, like it has heavy metal reinforcement on the cart itself as well, and there are large chain straps over the top.
Boxes all securely sealed and whatnot?
From what you can see, yes.
Would anyone like to...
Well, I mean,
Not really my area of expertise.
Yeah, no. The gecko lizard folk will say, I guess to Gil, because Gil was the one who was there. He'll say, "This prepared for you," and then we'll give you a form. And I don't know. Gil can read, of course, so Gil will see that it is a receipt form, which needs stamping at the other end.
Wonderful.
And you're told you'll receive payment.
Prove that we have, who prove who we are, that we're not just going to run off with this, or
No, the gecko says, "Master Sakar, know where you live."
excellent. Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
kind of looks around at the others, seeing how they're taking this.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was going to say, it's important that Master Sakar understand that Flynn is only living in that flop house temporarily.
Stype's eyebrows raise a fraction.
Yeah, great. So yeah, he'll probably actually kind of help whoever is going to pull the cart out. He's reasonably strong as well. He's small but seems kind of fairly wiry, and will take one of the handles to remove it from the barn. After which he'll then head back into the trade entrance and shut the doors.
Yeah, I guess Gil's probably pulling it at least out of the way, and then we can.
Stype has a mule, an ass, with him called.
That seems like a useful thing to have.
Yeah, called Krups. I think it's called Krups. Let me just check what I called him.
Great.
Like the dogs from. Isn't that like the dogs from Harry Potter?
Maybe.
Dogs with 2 tails. I suppose it's a thing.
Yeah,
Just
well, this one is not a dog with 2 tails. It is an ass. That's
With 2 tails.
With 1 tail, as far as we know. And it will.
So you're saying it's one tail on an ass?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. Following Stype, but he doesn't attempt to hitch it to the wagon, knowing its temperament.
is it your goat?
It's a goat that is associated with me. It's not exactly mine in the sense of my having power or possession over it.
Are you saying this goat has self-determination?
It has will.
Yeah, whether it's intelligent or not is different.
Yeah, it has notions and will, but not necessarily thoughts or opinions.
Is it like you're familiar? Or?
No, it's just a goat. It's sort of friend of Stype's. It's called Faust.
Why is it called Faust?
Well, that's what Stype called it.
Is that?
It doesn't know what the goat calls itself.
Yeah. Stype is a big fan
Why
of
does he
Goethe.
call it?
Yeah.
He's a regular bibliophile.
I think Phsphl's going to eat that.
Space Goat.
Yeah, space goat. Yeah, Phsphl adds milking mammals to the list of good nutrition.
So we have a donkey. I imagine the donkey isn't enough to pull the cart at its own, or it might be. I don't know.
It's a pretty heavy cart. You might well want someone else. You might want some. So probably the mule can count as one bearer, and you need another bearer.
Everybody looks at the major.
Phsphl.
Major looks at Phsphl.
Sparks looks at Fuzzy.
I mean-
Yeah, well,
Gil-
every-
Gil's
The officer class.
I think Gil will probably just keep pushing. Actually, once people start looking at each other, once the donkey's lashed up.
Bot is now behind.
Wait, I thought I hitched the donkey to the cart.
Yeah, no, oh no, sorry, the donkey. That's what I meant. I meant the goat is trotting behind.
Yeah, the goat. Yeah, sorry, yes.
Gil has his own like circus act. Yeah. Okay.
So far we have
shall we?
donkey, a goat, and space hamster. I mean, we're halfway there.
It's been, what, 2 episodes, and we have 3 animals?
Okay. You are travelling along, coming up through the lower city. Agmore. I mean, it's not very far away. It is up there, up in the kind of northern section of the lower city. Could someone? I guess we'll start with you, Sparks. Could you roll a d6?
Give me. I'll just open there. Should be me sharing the rolls. 3, if other people can say that.
Yes. It took a second. I take it there's like a second lag on that for my visuals, but yeah. That's fine. No, 3. Yeah, you come through up to this big north-south. One thing is that the select tool is also the resize tool. You come up to the big north-south street of the section, Eel Street, and as you are heading along, you see in front of you a heavy, moist barrier covering the whole of that section of Eel Street. You hear people to the north of you sort of shout or yell, and not kind of in absolute terror, but in confusion.
Anything like this, even similar to any
No.
this before?
Systems for this kind of thing.
I'll immediately stop the cart.
What's everyone else doing?
I start loading my crossbow.
Yeah, your counter's loaded. Phsphl, what are you doing?
Not sure. Probably tonguing the air.
Yeah, just trying to sense what's going on. Yeah. Stype?
Stype will take a step back and just sort of hold on to the halter on the ass and sort of hold his scythe in the other hand.
Yep. Major?
Yep, the major is going to stride confidently up to the cloud.
Yeah, on his to his left.
Yep. And what about you, Flynn?
About, I have a real low wisdom score, so
There's a certain degree of like blag through life for Flynn, obviously. Like he just goes up and hopes that he's like, I hope their reaction roll is good. I have a +2 bonus.
Yeah. Everything has always worked out for him in his life, so he never learned to be that vigilant.
Yeah, it's something which like second edition or early editions of D&D don't necessarily represent, is the degree to which wisdom can kind of raise with extremely negative experiences. Yeah. So, Major, you step forward.
Yes, I'm just... which... Here? Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out which window we're rolling it in. Is it the owlbear window?
The owlbear has a little dice tray next to the party title.
Yep, top left
so it
hand
does,
corner.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I rolled 2d6 somehow. I will...
I
try that again.
I haven't seen the drop. Can you make them public? There is a way from that you can make your...
Yeah.
In the
do you
bottom
see the
of
globe?
menu
Do
bar,
you see
there's
the
like a
globe
share.
on the left of it, the planet? Just click on that.
Oh, yes, I see. Okay.
That will then mean...
I think I figured out how to actually roll 1d6. Because I rolled 2 and then an extra third one, and honestly, I don't know.
Just in case, right?
I don't know.
Just in case. Yeah. Okay.
So,
Roll a d6.
Here is 1d6. It is a 2.
It's a 2.
Can you not see that?
Yeah, no, I can. It's
Yes.
come up, yeah. So you step in with Sparks close behind you and promptly bang into something or someone who yells at you in a language you don't understand. There is, you can't see who it is. They can't see who you are, just due to the very sudden moment. What is your action? Functionally, this is a surprise round for you, but you and a surprise round for them. Mutual surprise, but you can't see each other. What does the Major do?
Well, the whole reason I came in here was to find the wizard that was obviously responsible for this weird cloud.
Yeah.
And to ask him what the bloody hell, what he thinks he's doing. So, yep, I am just going to attempt to grab him by the scruff of his neck.
So you kind of just grab out, basically, unarmed attack. That's fine. And Sparks.
Yes.
You can't really see anything better either, I don't think. So, but you can see you saw a shape briefly ahead as the Major banged into them, and then the fog reformed and became quite solid.
Watching the Major go for grapple, at least, Box would kind of move round to flank him and be on his side, hold a couple of attacks. If the whatever that is has even the hint of becoming hostile.
Yeah. So essentially, you are asking to sort of prepare an aimed shot if something appears and looks hostile.
Yes.
Yep, no, that's fine. I'll let you do that. Obviously, there's something where, like, there's certainly not what we'd call readied actions, but there kind of are, because there's situations where you can kind of prepare. You can aim a shot before you do something or whatever. You've got fists and a lightning wand, haven't you?
Yes, fists and a circular plate in the middle of the chest that is effectively a lightning.
I like to imagine it's got like a little lightning symbol on it, and then a picture of a person or a gnome next to it with like a cross through symbol. You know, like you get on electric mains in Britain. You know, like, gnomes don't touch. You don't have loads of charges of that though yet, and you don't actually know who can recharge it. So there's a kind of thing where you're really powerful, but you definitely have some limitations as an auto gnome. You're also prone to exploding if you're even slightly damaged.
It's going to be a fun ride, whatever happens.
Yeah. Great. Okay, simultaneously, Major, could you do two things? Could you make an attack roll, just a normal attack roll, on your normal Thaco? And
my normal Thaco, no adjustment or anything, would be just hitting AC 9, if I understand how that works correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that hits AC
and
9. And then make your
save against spell?
Save versus poison.
This is poison, sorry. Okay, that's a D20, right?
Yep, that's right. PPD. Poison, paralyzation, and death.
This is relevant because Giff have a 10% magic resistance. Is this save against poison spell related?
So this is the combat screen, but this is not the live stream because due to the person I've got with us at this point, the stream died and we kept playing. Tom, Stype, can you explain your egregious fault in advising us to keep playing when we weren't sure if the stream was up?
Yes, I've been entirely justly blamed for the technical issues because of my inherent optimism and thinking that the stream would recover by the end. It's probably just a YouTube encoding thing, something. I know what I'm talking about, and here we are.
But yeah, we played a pretty good session of Spelljammer for just over 2 hours, and we got 45 minutes of that you just watched. But now we are in the combat, which I'm recording afterwards. We're going to talk about what happened in the combat, and then in the rest of the session, just as a bit of a the term the ancients used for this was epitome. An epitome of another book was their summary of the other book. So you didn't actually have to read this kind of old book that no one had a copy of. So yeah, we will epitomise the session.
Very hard to figure out who actually wrote what.
Yeah. You have an epitomizer being like, and then this author said this thing. You're like, I don't think they did say that. I think you said that because
I think that was somebody else's epitome of somebody else.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you do get. It's not it. When we think we talk about this stuff as Chinese whispers is a bit harsh actually, but there definitely is a degree of like, yeah. So we're gonna epitomize as if we were ancient epitomizers, making stuff up about the other players and what they said and did. Yeah. Do you remember when Flynn Manley admitted that he wasn't Manley or called Flynn? Yeah. Beej isn't here to argue. So
yeah. Actually happened, definitely.
Yeah. So what had happened was we got to the point we actually had the major at near the close of that saving against some kind of powder hitting his face, and then people were preparing for combat. That was kind of a bit of a mutual surprise round at the front. What we had was the major and Sparks charging into some mist while everyone else looked around, and some more thugs appeared at the back. What happened next from your memory, Stype?
So what happened next was we all began readying our actions. Phsphl, Flynn, Gil, and I, Stype, were all around the cart still, and it seemed fairly apparent to us, at least, when we turned around, these thugs closing in on us, that's what they were after. So Phsphl and Flynn readied their actions, or rather, declared their actions for the round of combat, which is how these things worked in second edition. I'm sure Owen will tell you more about that as we go. But their declared action was to move to the back of the cart and face the enemies. Phsphl was going to move directly forwards, and Flynn was going to move to support. Gil immediately cast Shield on himself, him being a battle mage, and I believe it was Gil who told them that they were about to face the finest swordsman in all of Bral. And Stype's plan was to use his small stature as a halfling to not hide, but take cover under the cart and swipe at their legs as they came in. But as I remember, the first round of initiative, they got quite a substantially better roll than us. That is a lower roll in the D10.
So yeah, the system in second edition is, well, you declare your actions, then you roll initiative. We were using the subset of rules because second edition is really modular. So we went for the option where you declare your action, you roll a d10, and then each individual, and that's the group initiative, and each individual adds their own action speed to it to get a net. And that does mean that using a scythe or a two-handed bastard sword like Gil is quite slow, whereas using a dagger is very fast. They won the first round, and I think the Major and Sparks managed to. I think the Major took an opportunity attack to charge past the thug that was in the fog with them. But yeah, in that first round, the Major caramelized the Major's head with a headbutt attack.
I thought that might have been the second round. I think this round he made a grab which missed.
Oh right? Yes, the first round he made a grab. Yeah. And he couldn't get hold of the guy.
Yeah.
And and I think Sparks was also like looking for someone. Well, they were withdrawing was the point. Yeah. They were kind of like beginning to back off. And yeah, you were fighting over
the mage certainly.
And I think there was a first round kill though. They came up and they injured Phsphl for like a hit point. Everyone missed apart from I think Gil cast shield, so he got higher AC. That's how he works as a combat mage, is he basically casts shield and then jumps in. But Stype did actually get some action in, didn't he? I think in the first round.
One of the attackers in the first round rolled a 1, which was a fumble, I believe.
Yep.
Which gave Stype it's not called an opportunity attack, but it is effectively a retaliation attack or of some kind. So, and managed to roll, I think, like a 16 or an 18 or something, which with the enemy's armor class and Stype Stacker was enough for him to get a hit, and I believe he rolled a 5 and gets +1 on that d6, so did 6 damage, which managed to slice off his attacker's arm and render them unconscious on the ground almost immediately from blood loss.
So yeah, you got an early kill in, and then as stuff progressed in the next round, which I think you won initiative on, Sparks and the Major absolutely wiped out their opponents.
The Major, I believe, completely squashed the Major's head, didn't he?
Yeah, and like one hit Yeah, it was
Yeah,
one
they had a
hit,
battle
one
of
damage
heads,
roll
and
with his
Mage's head came out
2d6
victorious.
headbutt attack, and then Sparks with his punches. Because Sparks is an Autognome, and so he's using a monster profile. The downside of which is that he might explode if he takes damage, but the upside of which is he's very tough. He's your tank, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
But then what happened round the cart? I think Phsphl got a small hit in. Phsphl got a small hit in. Gil jumped in and missed.
Flynn jumped in but didn't manage to secure a hit, although did taunt them and told them they should back off. And,
yes, he did.
And I believe this was when Gil warned them that they were about to face the finest swordsman in all of Bral.
There was a lot of bragging going on about who they were fighting for first level characters.
Yeah. But unfortunately, before, I think Stype managed to get a swing and a miss with his scythe, but then was promptly stabbed after being hit once before, which knocked him down to minus.
Yeah, you took a couple of
-2
hits and you knocked out. So
yeah,
you die instantly if you hit -3 from your knockout blow, but you hit -1, so you had, and that means you actually had 9 minutes, 9 rounds to go because of the fact you're losing one round to a -10 limit. That's the Death's Door rules from... Well, there's some advice in that in first edition too, but it's like an actual box in second edition which you can use. So yeah, Stype was knocked out, but at this point the Major and Sparks arrived back, which caused a failed morale check because their leader was no longer active. So we had these guys run away, didn't we?
Yeah. But Gil, not wanting to, waste his shield spell, ran forward and managed to get a hit off on the middle guy and take him out.
Yeah, took one of them out, and then no one else wanted to pursue. I think Flynn ran forward.
Flynn and the Major both got a shot off, I think, but didn't manage to hit anything. Flynn dropped his rapier and dagger, which he was two-handing, and whips out a crossbow to. I think his plan was kind of to just scare them off, really. And the Major, after missing, was sure to tell us that was just a warning shot, and it clearly worked because they ran away.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of eased off. They ran away, and you'd secured the cargo, then what happened?
And
I think Phsphl stabilized Stype, didn't he?
Yes. Somebody came to Stype to rescue. I think Phsphl.
No, it's Phsphl. Yeah, he briefly considered eating Stype, and then realised Stype was gonna make it, so decided to have mercy.
Yeah, exactly. And then the magistrates had kind of appeared by this point, but this being the lower city, they had kind of asked the Major to come and report to them what had happened at his convenience, having seen that we were the ones who'd been attacked and had repulsed it. And we did a bit of rifling through the corpses, which in this area of the city is sort of tolerable, but Flynn would know that it wouldn't be the sort of thing you should try and do.
Flynn's advice was not to do this anywhere else, but down by the docks. Yeah, there's a degree of a law of salvage.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't remember. Do we find anything identifying on them?
No, people don't like carry passports around, but you found, I think, a jeweled dagger, you found some gold, you found some silver, and you found a little packet with yellowy white powder like the stuff that had been thrown at the Major's face and failed to have an effect.
Yeah. And after this battle, Stype's goat Faust came and gave the pool of blood next to the severed arm an experimental lick. But decided that it probably wasn't for him. And so ambled along with the rest of them. And then I think after that we went and managed to make the delivery.
Yeah.
Probably with Stype either on the cart or attached to Krups the ass.
Yeah, I think you just carried him along. The rest of the party carried you along, I guess. I guess on the cart probably. And then you dropped it off, and at the Agamore platoon, which is a Giff mercenary unit, not the Major's old unit, but he's heard of it. And as people will know from the previous episode, his opinion is they're only decent chaps amongst the Giff. There's not bad chaps, just decent chaps. I think the sentry wasn't feeling very well, but he received the order, dragged it in more or less single-handed, and then gave you a stamped receipt so that you could end up returning that for pay. which I think was sorted probably as you were going back to the you went back to your quarters after securing that, I guess. So you went back to your quarters, and there was a degree of like, I think when trying to remember, we're like, oh yeah, we just kind of we faffed around out of character as well for like 10 minutes. So hey, people have been saved us not being sure what was going on by the technical disaster. Maybe we should have a technical disaster every time and just have a summary.
Yeah.
Man, I really love the fact that you have this like 20-minute summary of your sessions and not the actual session. It's much more entertaining.
Yeah. It does that. I mean, this combat was much quicker.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it was something where though most players had played second edition, and so we were reasonably up on top of it, there was a bit of like, can you remind me, and stuff like that.
There's also the first session of getting the weapon speeds down and that sort of stuff.
Well, yeah, it was our first on-screen combat, albeit no one saw it, and it was the first one with the whole party as well. So there was a bit of getting back used to it again. So you went back to your quarters, and Faust, your goat, went and hung out with Nibbles for a bit. Nibbles, the giant space hamster.
Nibbles, the giant space hamster. Faust looked on him with much respect, seeing the volume of things he was munching.
Yeah. There's a lot of resentment, particularly from Flynn, but also somewhat from some of the others of Nibbles. But I think Stype is probably one of his more friendly PCs.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I think then Flynn put on more ruffles for this meeting.
Yeah, he put on a more ruffly shirt, which Phsphl observed on being asked what the ruffles were for.
There was a horrendous. It was like a funny but horrendous dead air moment of about 8 seconds out of character, of people who were like, "Why is he putting these ruffles on?" And then
Phsphl observed that the ruffles are most attractive to the females of the species, which I don't know what wisdom score Phsphl had, but I think he's probably hit the nail on the head there.
Well, Beej then did slightly later. He was like, "Oh, I actually do get like an additional reaction score to people who might be attracted to me." So the ruffles literally do make a difference mechanically.
See if you could negotiate a +1 to ruffles, you know.
Yeah, then you went out to the Temple District.
The party kindly agreed to swing by the Pantheonic Temple to get me revived, and we were met by a fellow in a Corinthian helmet, which was a little too big for him, sort of an acolyte sort of level, who brought out a rather more senior priest who healed Stype before observing disdainfully that this is the sort of thing that happens when you associate with those who don't worship the right gods.
Yep.
And,
your Socrates, your local,
sheepishly.
Socrates, your local superior, was not very impressed with your adventuring ways.
No, he was not. But he's probably a bit uppity anyway. Given that he's a priest of Zeus, and so he thinks he's much more high and mighty than Stype being a devotee of Demeter.
Yeah, indeed. So Stype, well, the mechanical effect. This was something we did actually. People wondered about was, does this mean like Stype is just fine again? No, he's conscious. He was technically conscious before, but kind of a bit out of it. Like he was having to lay down. He can now walk around, but he can only do light duty. Like if he doesn't, he literally can't fight. He can't cast spells. He's essentially
a day of rest. I need.
Well, you need like several days of rest.
Wow. Unless
you can get a heal spell. It's essentially I think I'd need to double check. The way we do it is like a week of rest, which is the first edition thing. I think in second it might be a certain lower number of days is the way Death's Door works from memory. But I think the idea of imposing costs to danger and making, I think is good, basically.
And when you say heal spell, I assume you mean like the specific spell heal, as opposed to cure like wounds or something like that.
Yeah, no, indeed. So it can't be a healing spell from the sphere or from the effect healing. It has to be someone casts the heal spell, which removes all conditions. So if you want to think of it in video game terms, it's like, you've removed all my conditions.
Yeah, and at the moment I have a sort of Death's Door condition.
Yeah, exactly. And so but it meant you were able to. The thing here, I should say, Flynn agreed to take you to the Temple of Planar Olympus. so that you could come and get a finder's fee at the meeting, basically.
Yes, they were being paid by the person who turned up at the meeting at the Temple of Ptah, which we had said we would go to. So he figured that, another conscious person to drag there, despite my greatly enfeebled state, would be worthwhile.
Yeah, and to look more impressive. And then you had what happened at the Temple of Ptah? As far as you remember.
We were shown up to a sort of cloistered meeting room, secluded, and it was sort of like a confessional booth type setup, wasn't it?
There was like a mesh screen, and there was really heavy incense as well, wasn't there?
Yes, exactly. So it was very, very sort of reminiscent of what you might imagine like the confessional in a Catholic cathedral to be, at least in that room. And we spoke with a lady who Flynn. I think most of us were able to identify that she was probably a noblewoman, but Flynn, with a certain degree of certainty, him being moving in these circles, having etiquette and that sort of thing, explained to us that her ward, a young child of I believe 8. had gone missing about a day ago, and while they had been waiting in expectation of potentially receiving a ransom note or something, a day had now passed, and this woman was essentially hiring us to try and find out what happened to this child. And we were more than happy to take this on, but Sparks in particular, who has from his programming, it has 2 sort of major lingering aspects of it. While he can will against these things, they're like very powerful predilections. One is to obey the chain of command, and that in this case he's attached himself to the major, and the other is to protect children. So Sparks immediately was thinking on his feet and where we might begin our search for this child. And so that was, I believe that was roughly where we ended it. We had agreed to
you'd had to take a gate, you'd had to submit to a gaius beforehand not to speak of the interview, which I think most people have been fine with. There was a bit of because I think people understood the Temple of Ptah is like a broker. There was no requirement to take the job. It was just like you can't, and though it was understood that pretty quickly if you found this girl you would find out who this woman was, I think it was obviously a protection against your failure and therefore disgrace coming on her.
A gaius, for people who don't know, is it's sort of like a magically enforced. Well, in this case, it's being used as an enforceable NDA, basically. But a gaius is
I've heard Google have been experimenting with dark magic that does that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he loves it. But it's essentially a binding magical promise that if you break, bad things happen to you. I don't know if there's I think you are subject to like a really dangerous malady or something. I don't know. Can't remember what the mechanics are of it in 2nd edition.
But exactly. So people understood this was like a way of keeping it discreet. I think there was some commentary about is it peculiar she wants us to do this, or she's got getting our help. But she.
Because I wasn't there for the first session, I can't remember. How did we end up acquired for this meeting?
So a priest of Ptah had come and given a letter under seal to Flynn, which had invited them for, it was 5 gold finder's fee just to turn up, in fact, and 50 gold per head on completion.
I suppose we don't know for certain if we're the only group this has been offered.
I think there was some discussion about what her plans were and what she was doing, but obviously she didn't then say, "Let me tell you everything I've done and thought." Indeed. I think the party accepted the job, and I think gathered a little bit of info that you could probably use. The Temple of Ptah would give you a seal to give you access to the noble estates, or not access. You can actually walk in technically anyway, but it'd give you kind of a bit of free access around if the guard stopped you, but you'd have to go there acting as if you were there on behalf of the temple for some reason. You couldn't go there saying, "We're looking for this girl. We've been hired."
And there was a certain degree of concern amongst the party that time was of the essence, particularly this being a port city. If this is a case of abduction, depending on who and for why it was abducted, could easily end up on a ship out of the Rock of Bral and potentially even into a different sphere. So
so I think people were like, "We'll get on with it pretty quickly, possibly even that evening, or if not early the next morning." And that's where we left it. Which it was kind of productive for the party following up on a couple of different ones of their leads or rumours or whatever. Because it's in this game, it's a case where rumours come to the players, job offers come to the players, generally speaking, and they just get to decide what to do with them. In that sense, it's party driven as to what jobs they want to take, and I think they were like 50 gold ahead. Sounds great. I think in fact it's the 5 gold ahead finder's fee. I should say it was pretty much the 5 gold ahead. Finder's fee.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Because now we're going to have to find somebody who we can buy a heal spell off of on the cheap. Otherwise, Stype is just going to have to have a long lie down while the rest of the party go.
Well, I think we were like, so you're just going to have to play Faust for the next session.
Yeah, I'll just have to play Faust. He's not going to be very useful in combat, but
yeah,
angry
goats have their uses. Well, great.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we'll leave that summary there, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks, as I say. What technical error do you think we'll have next time, Tom?
Ooh, I mean, who knows? Computer might catch fire. Accidental swearing on the stream, thus unfriendly.
Maybe there's like a perfectly good capture, but everyone's voice has turned robotic, like perfect fidelity, but they all sound like robots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yes, bear with us as we work out the technical things. We will get better as we go.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. If people missed it, I have got like a contest open for creating an NPC to be a player in the world, and I've got a few people who've entered. But if you comment with I guess just think you enjoy in the session, or picking up a blooper, if you can see a technical blooper in this or in the previous session, pointing that out will also get you an entry into the prize draw. We'll leave it there. Yeah, Tom's going to go back and get as many entries as he can.
He's there on you.
Sorry, what's that, Tom?
I said you're going to end up with an absolute flood of people if it's on spotting a technical blooper.
Yeah. I think people are being kind so far and not focusing on that. My wife has. My wife was like, "Ha, that was funny," about an error. You should get your wife to come and complain.
Yeah, we can really stack up on that spousal sympathy.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Okay, then we'll leave that there. Thanks for listening to Gutter Stars. I'm going to stop recording now.